Good evening, everyone, and happy Halloween! It's the Autistic Scyther here, and on this haunted Halloween night, we're taking a look at some of the most spookiest things out there, Pokémon! Yeah, for those who don't already know, Pokemon is one of my autistic special interests next to Fire Emblem. In all fairness, it really does say that, honestly, there are a lot of Pokemon that I find to be my favorites. However, that's not what we're talking about, because this time, we're taking a look at since it's Halloween, we're going to take a look at some of the few Pokemon that are bound to basically make your skin crawl and make you wonder just what exactly were GameFreak thinking. That being said, yeah, really does say a lot. Also, if you're wondering, I got into the spirit and I decided to dress up like Joker from Persona 5. For those that are wondering, this is the mask. And it got a little messed up, but yeah. Basically, I made the mask myself. Not gonna wear it because it's a little cumbersome, but enough talk. Time to get in to the top 10 most disturbing Pokemon. And let's just get into it. Starting off first at number 10, we have Starmie. Alright. Naturally, for a Pokemon called the Mysterious Pokemon, most people wouldn't think of that this thing is that disturbing. Infuriating if you ask me, considering I have an obscene hatred towards the thing ever since a Nuzlocke wipe, but that's neither here nor there. More often than not, Starmie has more or less been one of the few Pokemon that has been laying in the cut ever since Generation 1. As more often than not, its Pokédex entries mention more benign topics like its core shining the 7 colors of the rainbow, and basically people theorizing it's more or less sending radio signals to its home. That being said, that is until Pokemon Legend, the release of Pokemon Legend ZA earlier this year. And while I'm getting the game for the Switch One this Christmas, yeah, honestly, the fact that we got new Megas really says a lot. And one of those is Mega Starmie. And yeah, I've seen the memes. I know how everyone is clowning on the thing for basically looking like Patrick from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. But honestly, can we just mention how disturbing its Pokédex entry is, as it's basically saying that more or less has changed its appearance to try and look more like a human. And scientists are more or less confused as to whether it's trying to blend in or eventually replace humanity. Granted, there's a thing called the Uncanny Valley. If you don't know what it is, look it up on Wikipedia or Google. You'll soon see it. And this is Uncanny Valley territory. And I kind of knew Starmie couldn't be trusted. Moving on next at number 9, we have Shedinja. Alright, now, if anyone who has grown up with either from ever since Generation 1 or even started with a game like Generation 3, they can imagine playing through Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, either one, for the first time, and then coming to Rustboro City before going to face off against the gym, they decide to go to the route to the east of Rustboro City in order to catch a new Pokemon. As such, they found this simple, unassuming bug ground type ninja cicada in the grass. And soon afterwards, and later on in the journey, they eventually witnessed Nincada evolving into the speed demon known as Ninjask, only to soon discover that a strange Pokemon has weaseled its way onto its party. Yeah, honestly, everyone has had this reaction in the first time they saw Shedinja. I mean, heck, even I did. Well, somewhat, considering I didn't have an empty slot when I first saw Ninjask. But yeah, honestly, eventually when I got it, I basically wasn't sure what was going on. However, yeah, despite Shedinja's peculiar appearance and its noticeable ability to basically shrug off any attack except for super effective ones, this thing basically has made it its life's goal to prove that this thing's a little messed up, as not only has its Pokédex entries mentioned how it's a spirit that entered a discarded cicada shell, but basically, whenever you peer into the hole on the back of its shell, your soul or life force gets sucked out of your body. Just yikes. And it's hammered home by the fact that every time you send out Shedinja into battle, you see that hole in the back sprite. GameFreak, is that why you're trying to hook us on your franchise? Did you mean for Shedinja, the hole in Shedinja's back to be seen? Because that's not funny. That's not funny at all. Not even one bit. Moving on next, at number 8, we have Annihilate. Yeah. Speaking of noticeable ghost-type Pokemon, if you haven't already guessed, yeah, the ghost types are basically gonna rule the roost here, which really does say a lot. Naturally, we have to go all the way to one of the most recent entries before Legend ZA in Scarlet and Violet. And surprisingly enough, yeah, even I was interested in just watching every trailer for something new. And I was surprised every time. I mean, heck, I even freaked out when Farigiraf was introduced. However, one of the most surprising Pokemon that showed up was Annihilate. And the fact that it evolves from Primeape really does say a lot. Because naturally, when you think about it, Primeape's Pokédex entry back in Sun basically said that Primeape gets so angry that Primeape can get so angry that it dies as a result. Yeah, for anyone who's seen that episode of King of the Hill, with that guy who called himself the Junkyard Dog who died of anger? Yeah, it's kind of like that. However, Primeape's face, it's also said that Primeape's face looks peaceful in death. Not so with Annihilape, as its Pokédex entry basically says that any Primeape who dies of anger is so angry that even death can't keep it, and that even death can't satiate its anger. So it basically just comes back as a vengeful and angry wraith. Granted, I am paraphrasing a lot of these Pokédex entries, but yeah. I mean, granted, this fits Primeape to a T, but yikes, imagine being so angry that basically you more or less stay angry when you die. Kinda really puts things into perspective. Moving on next at number 7, we have Jumpluff. Speaking of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, yeah, there's another Pokemon that honestly you wouldn't think of when it comes to disturbing Pokédex entries, as Jumpluff is just a happy-go-lucky little guy. In fact, the entire Hoppip line are just completely carefree and enjoyable. And they definitely put out all the stops for these things. I mean, there are connoisseurs that know where Skiploom is from, courtesy of its smell. Keep that in mind. However, in Jumpluff's Pokemon Scarlet entry, it basically says that when Jumpluff float on the wind, more or less spreading their spores, or as to grow new plant life. As soon as the cotton spores run out, yeah, so does Jumpluff's life. Anyone besides me remember being a kid and going outside and finding a dandelion and blowing on its fluff so it all flies off and eventually onto your lawn, possibly annoying your parents because you got weeds on your lawn? Yeah, this is basically the same thing. Only if Jumpluff's fluff runs out, it dies. Oh man. I need to apologize for all the dandelion fluff I blew off. Oh no. Moving on next at number 6, we have Houndoom. Another Johto Pokemon. And honestly, I think we all know the story, as this thing is just, well, as far as we know, it's a flat-out hellhound. That's basically all it is. Being one of the first dark and fire types we've seen in the game. Only thing, when it was introduced, it was only relegated to Kanto. But that's not why we're here. Apparently this thing is much more feared due to its fire abilities, as many of its Pokédex entries mention that the flames that it breathes from its mouth, when they hit an opponent, or prey, The pain doesn't subside. When the flames subside, the pain doesn't. Yikes. That is scary. Also, its mega is melting under the pressure, so, yikes on both ends. That's all I gotta say. I'm scared. This will be continued in part 2.